All right, we've had a lot of people come to the Treasure State recently, and sometimes there's familiar faces and a whole lot of unfamiliar faces. So how familiar with our neighbors are we? I know there's been some newcomers. There's been some people that have actually reached out to us just down the road via Facebook, messaged us and say, "Hey, we're your new neighbors. Didn't know if you knew that, but here we are." There have been other people that just kind of showed up, and I know Dad tries to go around introducing himself. So, how easy is it? How difficult is it to stay familiar with the neighbors? It's kind of, I know it's an ongoing struggle with not just the community but the state in general. So, how's that going?
Dad's the local welcome wagon.
Well, just locally here.
He
I mean,
does.
they
He
don't
goes
run
around.
us.
You're right.
It's the right thing to do.
Hi. Yeah.
I mean, it's a cultural thing. If you were a really good neighborly wife,
I'd bake him something.
you bake them a pie
Yeah.
or some cinnamon rolls and take
He
it
never
to
tells me when he's going to go see somebody, or I'm not here. And like I was in Shepherd and several came, and so he introduced himself.
True.
So,
But-
nah.
But, you know, it's a cultural thing.
I guess I could still make him a pie.
You could.
Go ahead. You can talk.
So, you know, you get people that move in and they're from an entirely different area of the world.
Yeah.
And they are not used to looking you in the eye or anybody in the eye. They're not used to coming out of their house. And so you show up and I think it scares them a little bit. And I mean, I kind of don't look mostly friendly.
You can have a friendly face if you try.
I think you'd look a whole
tried.
lot more friendly if you just showed up in your slinky black dress, and then they'd be like, "Oh,
There you
this
go.
guy right here."
What are you talking about?
You know
need to
that
put
thing
some
that you
context
think,
on that there, boy.
the thing that you
heels.
think is important that brings you power and justice for all. You know, that's
Justice for all.
I try to be good.
He has no power here.
I have no power here. That's exactly right.
I'll make sure to put a card for your JP run there, because otherwise people are not going to understand. Dad is justice of the peace. He wears a slinky black dress, which is his
It's a robe.
robe. There you go. That's what they call
judicial robe.
Still the slinky.
I don't wear it around the house. I mean,
no, I'd be covered in pug hair. Yeah, that'd be bad.
That's true. The pug would color it in, wouldn't he?
So yeah, you go around neighbors when they move in and introduce yourself. Say, hey, if anything ever happens, you need something, you're welcome to ask for some help. Do what we can.
And you have
that's the neighborly thing to do. Oh, sure. Yeah, I've been a number. Yeah. There's some that moved in from, well, I asked him, I said, where are you from when we met? And he goes, Washington. And I said, no, before that. And he goes, oh, California. Yeah, they could smell it, you know, but, you know, they're trying to get away from something that they didn't want to be around. And they didn't last long. They made
going
one
from California to Washington is not much of an upgrade. But
no, it's not.
You know.
Well, and what they did is they moved here, and then we had a cold spell. And they sold that place. They were gone in the spring.
Yeah, it's normally what happens.
Yeah, it happens. But you know, and there's a family. It's a politically correct way to put this because I'm a politically correct guy. They're African American folks.
Oh, okay.
And they live up the road. They live up in our grandparents or my great grandparents' old house.
Oh, and, I know exactly where that is. Okay.
Yeah. And, you know, I've tried to stop, say hi, and the gate's always closed. You get close and they scurry in, and I'm like,
I'm not trying to scare you.
They're just not, I don't think they're used to friendly people or people trying to be friendly.
And I don't know where they moved in from.
I don't either. You know, and I wave on the road, on the highway when you do see them.
We don't have a great diversity.
No, there's not.
No. And I think Dad and I have talked about that before too. Like Montana's very much predominantly white. The next, the next demographic, which is very much still a minority, are Native Americans. Right. And keep in mind, for those that are not familiar with Native peoples and reservations, they are in themselves are their own demographic as well. They're the tribes. Right. You know, you've got the Crow tribe, the Blackfeet tribe, the Kootenai, Flathead. You know, there's all these different tribes that are all their own different subsects of a culture too. So you can't just say, you know,
and they
it's an
don't
Indian.
always
That's
and they don't always get along. Some of them are have been mortal enemies for eons. So but and then we don't have a large black population in Montana. I mean, it's a very, very small minority. So and of course I wear a cowboy hat and some ragged vest and go showing up on someplace.
Always wearing his finest with the holes in the sleeves, and there's a wristband around his.
But there isn't anybody I won't help. I mean, that's just what you should do. It's just the right thing to do. Remember when we were was it last winter when we were coming back from Billings and somebody had spun out and it was bad. I don't know who they are, but we stopped.
They were they were sketchy enough in appearance that I asked Dad. I said, "Somebody got a gun?" he replied in the affirmative. I said, "Okay, I think we're good."
Well, and it looked like maybe a family and maybe little kids with them, and it's just cold. It was very cold.
Yeah, that's why we stopped primarily because it was cold enough that if something bad happened, you wanted to make sure that they wouldn't freeze to death or anything. So
And so, but you got to take care of your neighbors. I mean, you want to know who your neighbors are, and that you can help them if you need to. And you know what? You may find out that you need to keep an eye on these people.
Yeah,
it goes that way too. So you don't know. Generally most everybody's good.
What is there like any particular struggle other than trying to maybe sometimes catch them in terms of get a face-to-face? Because you're saying one family kind of scurries in the house, other times they're just kind of hesitant of maybe answering the door because they don't know who you are. Is there any other different struggles that are maybe different, like unique to the area that would be kind of like a speed bump if they're trying to get used
it's
to
the
them?
distance between houses because there's not really necessarily a common meeting place. We go to, firemen's breakfast and things.
There's the bar. Every time you go into Rygate, Montana, there is a bar right there with at least 20 vehicles.
And we don't frequent the bar very often.
Oh, that's the problem.
That's the problem is we don't know all the scuttle.
We go in for a meal,
Yeah, we'll go in and have a meal.
But that's actually a very good question. I think some of that is for those who move in from the outside. We have the distance, like you say, but there's not much for there's no bowling alley. There's not much for socialization or even for those that need it, social services type stuff. I mean, you are here and you are on your own. It is very much a self-sufficient type of lifestyle.
Well, and I'd argue the one time you're talking about a family that's there, the one time that you might potentially meet up with them face to face would be maybe at a basketball game or a volleyball game or something. But if you don't have kids in school, which you don't right now, then it's very difficult to do that. You're kind of missing each other generationally. So you can't. And
you're right. The school is the major hub of social activity.
That's right.
Yeah. If it's not the bar, if it's not you happen to catch each other at a dining place like the bar, then it would be next to the school potentially.
We got a restaurant here too, and the grocery store, gas station is another actually kind of a meeting place. You'll walk in there and there'll be people standing around visiting.
Yeah.
At the checkout counter.
Yeah, that horrible neighbor of yours down the road that's got a goatee and he's kind of funny looking and got glasses, and every once in a while he helps bailiff your court proceedings. I know he's been in that gas station a time or two, and I've been trying to buy something, but man, he's hogging up that counter wanting to talk their ear off.
He's a bad man.
Yeah, he's a bad man.
He wants to talk, but he can't hear squat. Just ask his wife.
Boy, I tell you. But anyway, that's kind of the ongoing struggle of staying familiar with neighbors. One of the things that we've also learned is just, don't be afraid to introduce yourself also to those that are already around, and we will be happy to help you out, especially like Dad said in the cold snaps too. So with that, we'll put it out the pasture, folks.